Hello? Hello? Oh, yeah. Test it. Yeah.
Bienvenue à Genève, je suis ravie.
One, two. Okay, you're going to speak from here, yes?
Whatever, but I don't see him. That's l'hai chiamato?
La sindaca di Ostra.
La sindaca di
Ostra.
Ah, non lo so. Sì, però deve venire Vincenzo, perché sennò... Vabbè, era qui un attimo fa.
L'ho vista che se ne andava di là o andava in bagno.
We start and then she will speak first because it's 17.
Per aspettare che
Non si può.
Oh, che fico!
Hai visto? Uno che lavora con noi.
Perché sposta le sedie, sì,
Adesso io inizio e chiamo urlo di...
E lo sta chiamando, guarda, Andrea lo sta chiamando. Vabbè.
Good afternoon. Can you please take your seats because we are about to start. Please take your seats. We are about to start. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really happy to see many of you sitting in this event. This is actually a sort of a tradition. We started with this event last year, and we hope to have an event on women mayors for all the Forum of Mayors to come. And we hope that there will be more and more women mayors. I am going now to give the floor to Ambassador Vincenzo Grassi from the permanent representative of Italy to the United Nations office at Geneva, thanking him also very much for his role in always supporting this event with women mayors and also offering this light lunch today. Thank you, Ambassador. The floor is yours.
Madam Executive Secretary, dear Tatiana, distinguished delegates, esteemed mayors, Madame le Maire, Señoras Alcaldes, I am pleased to join you for the second time at this side event, which the permanent representation of Italy organized last year for the first time during the previous edition of the forum. We are at a pivotal moment in our journey toward gender equality, following the recent approval of the Pact for the Future in New York. Such a pact acknowledges that none of our goals can be achieved without the full, safe, equal and meaningful participation of women in political and economic life, setting a framework for our commitment to empowering women in all spheres. When we consider the implication of this pact, it is essential to recognize key upcoming milestones. In 2025, we will mark the 40th anniversary of the World Conference on Women and the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action that was in 1995. As well as 10 years since the adoption of the Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is time for a thorough assessment of our progress and of our remaining weakness. As we look ahead to the Beijing Plus 30 Regional Review meeting in Geneva next October, I commend UNECHA for spearheading this initiative, which will be crucial to identify challenges that still constrains women's participation in social and political life, helping us align our strategies with the objective of the Pact for the Future. I look forward to hearing from our esteemed panelists as they address three critical themes: the underrepresentation of women in leadership positions, significant gender inequality challenges in their cities, how to foster a more inclusive political culture. Before we engage with the major, let me highlight Italy's long-standing commitment to promoting gender equality, particularly in elected office. In 2003, Italy amended Article 51 of our Constitution to promote gender equality in accessing public offices, mandating the adoption of laws fostering gender parity in political appointments. The introduction of a gender quota by Law 215/2012 set a benchmark for representation in electoral lists since at least 40% of candidates in election at the municipal, regional, and parliamentary levels must belong to the less represented gender. Italian laws also requires that at least 40% of the appointment of directors of listed companies and of public companies be made by the less represented gender. In August 2021, Italy adopted its first national strategy for gender equality, the strategy for 2021-2027, identifying 5 priority sectors: employment, income, skills, power, and women participation in managerial roles at political, economic, and social level, which is monitored through indicators to track progress. My country is also engaged in fulfilling the international obligations on gender equality through the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women and the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence against Women. These measures have already led to a significant progress in women's representation in both national and local politics. For instance, in the current 19th parliamentary legislature, women make up about 43% of the total elected members. This places Italy slightly above the European Union average of 32.4. For the first time in our national history, since 2 years, our national government is led by a woman. At the local level, women representation in municipal council is 44% in towns with a population under 100,000 and around 42% in larger municipalities, close to the EU average of 44.5. Women hold 43 of the councillor positions in municipalities, though female mayors account for only 50% of the total compared to the EU average of 17.7%. More encouragingly, women's representation on boards of listed companies continues to rise, reaching 42.9% in 2022. In 2023, the Gender Equality Index monitoring disparities between men and women in EU countries and ranked Italy 14 with a score of 68.2 out of 100. Notably, since 2010, Italy has been the largest overall improvement among EU member states, propelling the country up to 8th position. While my country has made strides in gender equalities, further progress is necessary across the entire UNISA region to meet the majority of 2030 targets. It is troubling that we lack sufficient data, which hinders our ability to assess progress on critical issues like economic rights and violence, especially domestic violence against women. Moreover, the development of a policy to address gender disparity is not keeping pace with the urgency of the situation. For example, women continue to bear a disproportionate share of unpaid domestic work, hindering their participation in economic activities. Geopolitical tension and armed conflict in the region worsen gender disparities and reduce access to essential services. These challenges require attention. Progress toward gender equality should be sustained and accelerated. Let us reaffirm our dedication to these critical goals and foster an environment where women can thrive as leaders and change makers in their communities. We should be proud of the progress realized and achieved so far, but not resting on it. As a movie director indicated in our first sensational movie, there is still tomorrow, and we should act to make this tomorrow better, fairer, and more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Before thanking the Ambassador, just I see there are some mayors standing there. Maybe we can just squeeze a bit and allow also other mayors and participants to sit. Well, first of all, let me say I'm Italian and I'm really proud of having an ambassador that is such a gender champion. It's not always the case. So I really want to thank the ambassador for always being with us, supporting this event, supporting female mayors. Thank you, ambassador, very, very much. I'm really proud that you are my ambassador. You're supporting my rights. Thank you so much. And I have to say I'm equally proud of my boss, the executive secretary of UNICE, because she's also a gender champion. And when we get caught in her office, we end up always talking about women's rights. How do we support women? How do we support women mayors in particular in this event? So let me introduce Ms. Tatiana Molsian, the executive secretary of UNICE and the secretary general of the UN. Please.
Thank you, Paola. Excellency, thank you for a wonderful speech about some good, but also some challenges that we still have in this field. Now, I'm really pleased to have this side event, and I remember discussing indeed with Paola that can I be involved not only at the opening of the Forum of Mayors, but in this side event in particular, because it's really important, and I'm happy to see such a turnout. And we still see some colleagues being outside, so please squeeze in and make yourself room, because we are going to have some interesting discussions today. Before I begin, because I think I had already quite a long speech in the morning, and I was thinking maybe to go with a history lesson, even though it's a small history lesson. I don't know, how many of you know the story of the first, or at least in modern time, woman mayor? Anyone knows who's the first woman mayor? No. Okay, good. No. Okay, it's good. Then I have this honor of presenting this small story. So let us travel back in time. It's a small town of Argonia, Kansas. What a nice name, Argonia, for Kansas, in the States. The year was 1887. And it was a year like all the others. But beneath the surface, a small revolution was brewing. And it's a revolution that I would say would change the course of the history. Susanna Madora Salter was a 27-year-old mother of four, a devoted wife, and a respected member of her community. And even though she was active in the so-called Women's Christian Temperance Union, a group advocating for temperance and women's rights, she has never aspired to a public office or public functions. Politics, she thought, was a man's world, far removed from the domestic sphere where she excelled, with 4 kids, I would imagine. However, in the spring of 1887, Argonia's local elections were fast approaching, and a group of men in town, unhappy with the growing influence of women organizations like the one I have mentioned, just the Women Christian Temperance Union, decided to play a prank. So they believed that women should remain silent in public affairs and wanted to teach the women of Argonia a lesson. And without Susan's knowledge, this man secretly placed her name on the ballot for mayor, confident that the idea of a woman in such a position would be so ludicrous that it would surely be a source of ridicule. On the day of elections, Susan's name appears on the ballot, much to the shock of the townspeople, but also of Susan herself. News spread quickly, and the town buzzed with gossip. Some were outraged, others amused, but mostly no one knew what to do about this. What it was very important, and here what I would like to emphasize particularly, that her fellow colleagues and members of the Women's Christian Temperance Union and other citizens who just respected her for who she is, and they really decided to turn the tables on the prankers. So they railed behind her, they engaged and supported spreading the word that if they wanted real change in their community, they should vote for someone who has proven her leadership in this union, and not only would be successful, that would bring a real change. She's a capable leader, but also one that can bring decency and fairness to the Westens. And when the votes were counted, Susan Madora Salter had won by a landslide. So it was the idea of pranksters to mock the idea of women in leadership were really left stunned. I'm not certain if that was the first woman mayor in the world, because in ancient times, who knows, maybe we had even more advanced leaders than we think of ourselves today. But definitely in her town and also in the nation, in the history of the country, she was the first woman elected mayor. She accepted her role with grace and determination. She served as a mayor for 1 year, during which she proved to be an effective and fair leader, earning the respect of those who had once loved and thought of her holding office. It was more than just a local event. It became a symbol of the changing times, a moment that signaled the dawn of a new year where a woman could and would step into the public sphere and lead with wisdom and courage. Now we are 137 years later. A woman mayor, one would think, is no longer seen as a rarity. The world has changed, with women increasingly stepping into leadership roles across both governments and the private sector. Yet, despite the progress made since Susanna first broke this barrier, the number of women elected as mayors globally, especially in urban centers, remains unsatisfactory. There is still a lot of work to be done, and you have mentioned this just before that. And I have to say that even in forming this wonderful panel, it was a struggle, to have a woman mayors or even deputy mayors. It is a struggle, and many times I'm asked why it's only women in this panel. For example, where are the men to speak? I say, well, exactly. This is the woman that we gathered to speak, and there are not as many of them. And this is why it is even more valuable. A few data, and maybe many of you have heard about this. We have different sources of information, different data, but none of them really offers us a very optimistic picture. Women hold only about 12% of mayoral positions worldwide. Out of 1,500 major cities globally, only around 180 are led by female mayors. Oceania leads, with women making up to 25% of mayors, meaning just 1 in 4 mayors are women. In Africa, the percentage ranges from 8 to 12%, while in Asia, it is between 5 and 10. The percentage of women mayors in Latin America averages around 15% across the region. Europe is around 16% at the moment, and the rapid decrease is unfortunately recorded. These numbers highlight the significant barriers still prevent women from reaching top position in city leadership. And women often face challenges in accessing resources necessary for running for office, including funding and critical networks for effective governance. Traditional gender roles and societal expectations continue to limit women's participation in politics, particularly in local governance across many countries. Additionally, discrimination remains a significant barrier. I will be moderating today's discussion to delve into your experience as both a woman and a mayor will have discussions and sharing their experience with us. We will explore the challenges and opportunities you have encountered, as well as discuss ideas on how to improve the situation in the future for generations. And I really hope that after today's event, but throughout the Forum of Mayors, we will really craft some inspiring messages, not only general one, but with very concrete recommendations that we can put forward for the global, for the not only for the region, but globally. And to wrap up this speech, I would like to come back to our trailblazer, Susanna. She, in fact, lived to the remarkable age of 101 years. Her long and well-deserved life as the first woman to serve as a mayor still stands as a positive example for all of us. So I would say to give a round of applause for those who are trailblazers before we move into our panel discussion. Now, with that story in mind and the fact that you can be both a successful leader, both be a woman, a mother, and whatever you would desire, and a mayor, leading with the complex challenges of the cities, but still live to the happy 100 years. I would like to invite our speakers in this panel to share their experience and present to us some of their recommendations. And I would like to start with our chair of the 2024 Forum of Mayors, Daniela Arsovska, the Mayor of Skopje. You have the floor.
Yes. Thank you. It was very nice to hear you speak. And of course, it's always wonderful to hear that women are always supporting women, but also I think the most important thing is that strong women should always be supporting other strong women. And it's nice to hear that amongst the day-to-day conversations that you're having with Paula here in this institution, where we have fabulous women role models leading by example, that women are on the top of the agenda and always a topic. You told us some of the facts that we should know about numbers of women. And I would like to discuss, as you mentioned previously, the numbers that we are facing, especially in Europe. The trends are declining, they're not good, meaning that less and less women are the ones who are being elected into these positions. The councils, they have quota, which is something that we have as rights. But what about women mayors? And this is what I mentioned on our previous session. I see many of the fabulous deputy mayors here present, hoping and wishing for them that in their next term we see them as mayors as well, because usually the deputy mayor is the one post assigned by the mayor to the deputy, and usually given from the man to a woman just to show some parity. This is not something that we would like in our society. We would like women to be those who are elected and women to be those who would lead by example. In Southeastern Europe, by the latest polls that we have, only 8.3% of mayors are women. Only 2 capital cities are led by women. The decreasing trend in Europe, as you mentioned, from 25 in just 1 year, falling down to 16%, is really terrifying. And what's even more terrifying is that this trend is going on downwards again, because next year, many of these female mayors, which are in their positions, are ending with their terms, and most of them, if not all, will have no re-election. This leads us to what's the core of the problem, and in general, it's the lack of policies and awareness that women should be given the chance and the opportunity to show that we can lead differently, to show that we have an innovative emotional intelligence, something that can show a different approach on the way that a city can be run. This is why 5 out of 12 cities and countries, especially which were looked into as capitals, have no gender equality strategic documents. Not to have a gender equality strategic document on a national level is really discouraging in the 21st century. 7 out of 12 have no gender responsive budgeting on national level, meaning that we are even below the agenda of the marginalized groups, of those with disabilities, of those of color, of everybody else. Women are being perceived as equal by law, but unfortunately, we are nowhere to be found in the strategic documents which would guarantee us that this legislation is being implemented properly. So we are facing this discrimination not only in the national legislation, but into the day-to-day life.
We had a recent meeting with the Berlin process, which is a fantastic initiative where we fought and won this time for the first time since its establishment in 2012, that the gender is being put at the table on the agenda so that we will work towards all of these policies which are not being implemented and which are not being taken into consideration, that we have them as something that will be mandatory for all of us. And this is something that should be supported. I know that all of us are being faced with the same problems. None of you can tell me that we're not being faced by hate speech every day, by being discouraged to do your job just because you're a woman, you're unfit. Whenever you do a mistake, you're incapable. Whenever a man does a mistake, okay, it happens. You know, whenever you go somewhere and do some project and implement it, you always get somebody wondering, why aren't you at home cooking? This doesn't happen with men. And I'm very sorry to say that in the 21st century, when I'm able to choose what I'm going to do with my body and also what I'm going to do with my career and my profession and my future, somebody should be judging me on where I should be at that moment. So this discrimination, this hate speech, this unfortunately knows no boundaries. It's same across all continents, it's same in all countries, it's same in all cities. And the only solution I can come up with, because everything else we already discussed, everything else is on paper, but unfortunately nobody is supporting women. Let's not kid ourselves that somebody is. The only thing that I can think of is women supporting women. So, thank you. One of the first supporters I had during my candidacy was a female mayor and a female council president. They went out through a video message supporting my candidacy and saying that, yes, for the first time in history, this country should have as its capital's mayor a woman, not just because this is my gender, but because I have all the qualifications, because I'm good at what I do, because I'm a great professional, and because I happen to be a woman at the same time. So I shouldn't be discriminated just because of my gender. Choosing the best candidate should always be how it should be processed. Meritocracy should always be how we should do things. But unfortunately, 99% of the time, even if you are the best candidate, and even if you are the best person out there, you will not get it just because you're a woman. So women and men, please support other women. Please be their backbone. The most important thing is networking. So ladies, I think under the umbrella, why not under the United Nations, we should have some kind of forum that is going to unite women that are in their term, that do need support, that do need a voice, that need somebody today, tomorrow, whenever they're facing hate speech, whenever they're facing discrimination, whenever they're having a problem that's not only a city problem, but it's a national and a worldwide problem like what we're facing now. They should have a group of other strong women supporting them. So please, Tatiana, if you may, we're hoping that this will be one of the next great initiatives that UNESA will have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Apparently this one is not working yet. I would like to change a little bit the setting. I would like to listen now from a different region, a region that actually was now moving out of the panel's list. But I would like to offer the floor to the mayor of Lusaka from Zambia, Chilando Chitangala, to share with us some of the views and some of the experience that are important from her perspective when it comes to being a woman leader, a woman mayor. Maybe we'll do it like this. We will have a microphone, or you would like to please do, because this one is not in right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank UNCECE and also Global Cities Hub for the invitation. This is the first time that the city of Lusaka is taking part. So thank you so much. And thank you, Chair. And I must mention that Chair and Susan are actually my personal friends. Thank you so much. My name is Chilando Chitangala. I'm the mayor for the city of Lusaka. Lusaka in the southern part of Africa with a population of 3.5, slightly over 3.5 million people. And 70% of the people in my city live in peri-urban area. So it means that we have a challenge with service delivery and issues of water and sanitation. Service is very difficult in areas like that. So we did have two other mayors before that were voted in the office in the chambers. So they would serve 1 year each and then they'll be re-elected again in the chambers. But this is the first time that the city of Lusaka, under the new constitution, voted for a woman mayor by the district. So all 3.5 million people had to vote for their own mayor. Thank you so much. So I am a first as well. So women, I was just listening to my chair and yourself talking about women. In Zambia, for example, members of parliament don't even reach 12%. And at local government level, we don't even reach 8%. And we have 116 local authorities and only 15 out of those 116 are women. So you can imagine the challenge is real. The journey of being a female mayor and just what we go through from my part of the world in my country, some of the challenges that we go through is culture. Culture also affects us taking part in politics because in rural areas, apart from the cities now which are changing, rural areas, you'll find that they don't believe that a woman will stand up in the middle of men and tell them what to do or take part in development. So this has been, it has taken a lot of sensitization by NGOs and other women groups and also government so that it must be accepted. So cultural norms are a problem and also education. In rural areas especially, you will have women that can make proper leaders, but they will not meet the high school certificate that can allow them to start as a councillor. So we have a challenge of education. And then we're going to talk about financing. Financing, most of our elections in our part of Africa, you have to fund them yourself. So if you're a woman and you don't have funding, you will not take part in the election. The elections have become very expensive. And then we have violence in political spaces. Most of our political parties get involved in violence, and women don't want to get involved in violence. So it means they'll shun the political space. And this happened in my last election. That was in 2021. There was a lot of violence. And I remember trying to mentor two ladies who wanted to become councillors, and they couldn't just do it because they were scared of the violence and also cyberbullying. And cyberbullying means that even when a husband wants the wife to take part in politics, they will not, because they will not feel safe that the wife will be bullied and posted all over social media, talked about in a bad way. And this is what we are going through right now. Women are not given safe spaces. And what I mean by safe spaces is where I come from in Zambia, we have areas where, that political party where you belong has a safe space in that constituency. But instead of them saying, there's a woman who's vying for this position, let's give her, they'll still choose a man because he's paid his way through. And women are sent to places where their particular political party is not even popular. And they say they have the numbers. No, we also want the safe spaces. So we don't use what I hear Europe talking about quotas, but I hope in the future we are fighting for quotas as well. But this also means that our own political parties if it's not in the constitution like right now, they must have a deliberate policy that will allow a few numbers, 30, 40%. We're not even saying 50. We're saying 30, 40% must be women to stand in that election, that general election that year. So we have these challenges that we are going through. And I will say that during my time when I was vying for adoption, the men had to speak, because you were there. I was a councillor, I was a deputy mayor, and the time that I wanted to be a mayor, of course I had to speak to a few men and who had seen my track record as deputy mayor. But it was not easy. But I must also thank the women that were in that room that screamed my name. These women screamed my name like, we want a female city mayor now. And then the one who was chairing at that time heard my name and said, oh, is that so? Do you want a woman? Do you have a candidate? And they screamed my name. So it had to take a man to listen and say yes. So thank you for those gender champions who are men. And then gender imbalance in the urban governance. Yes, the voice of the woman is not heard. They also need to be, this needs to be addressed. But what we've done in Zambia is that we have what we call ward WDCs, that is ward development committees. That is the lowest committee for government that lives in the community. So we encourage the councillors to also include women in those committees so that they take part in decision making. And it has worked. We've encouraged a lot of women to take part so that they can also have a voice in development. And what we've used as a local authority is we use a bottom-up approach so that we get the information from the bottom and take it up. So we know that the voice of the women and the children and the differently abled is also heard. As a female mayor, the first, like I mentioned, getting into this space, of course, was not easy. It was a fight. But I would like to encourage other women globally not to relent. I think it's time for us to fight for our space, just like we've done. And I am enjoying this space, though it's not easy, and especially that I'm an opposition mayor in the capital city, so it's not easy. And some of the challenges that I've faced is that even when I have very good ideas, they'll look at the ideas twice. So I need to balance myself by making sure I'm in a good space and a good relationship with central government right now, because I am working with them. Their failure will be my failure. So I try to make them understand that, look, I am also looking forward to the success that you want. So for me, my journey has been interesting, though I must say that I'm in an environment where I'm being looked after. Even though I'm an opposition mayor, I'm okay. I'm okay because I have a good relationship with the central government, especially Minister of Local Government. So if I find that I have difficulties, I'll definitely go to my minister, who will talk about it and share the ideas, and they'll buy into the ideas, especially that I'm marrying my ideas with their manifesto, and we are looking after the same people. So what I would like to say is that looking into the future, I think the constitution of some of our countries, some of our nations must be really considered, especially when it comes to political parties, making sure that they have a deliberate policy that will make sure it supports women. The quotas, I think that is something that the Ministry of Gender has a gender division in my country we've talked about. I think the quotas work very well when you have these numbers that you spare and say these numbers will be for women. That is what I would like to see also happening in my country. So thank you very much. I just want to thank everyone and thank you, the women. I think the fight is real and we have to continue to fight, especially that the space is shrinking. So the space is not only shrinking here in Europe, the space is also shrinking in Africa, where we have too much violence where politics are concerned, and then also the voice of the women, they don't want us to sit on that table. Other African countries have got good numbers like 68%, but I'll tell you where I'm coming from, 12% is at national level and 8% at local level. So it's not good enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There were many important things, and I think at the end we will be able to summarize and return to some of those, including from some questions or comments. But there was one moment that caught my attention, is the role or the challenge of balancing with the central government. So local government versus, not versus, maybe versus is not the right way to put it, but how do you balance this relationship? How much of support is having a government with a strong, let's say, gender policies? And speaking about this, there is one country in my mind, and this is Morocco. For those in Geneva who are in particular here might know that in this year, Morocco, or the ambassador of Morocco, is chairing the Human Rights Council. And he's been doing a tremendous job also in advancing the gender, the women's rights. And he has even an advisory group on gender and women. So I'm just wondering, and having, at least here in Geneva, as we see it, a very open towards Morocco, which is very much open towards global challenges when it comes to women and empowering women. How is it to be a local leader in Morocco? And I would like to invite the mayor of Rabat to speak to us about this in particular.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Oops, sorry. Honorable mayors, deputy mayors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fatiha El-Moudni, and I'm, as you understood, the mayor of Rabat, the capital of Morocco. So it is with great pride that I stand today before you and to discuss a topic that is really resonating deeply with my own journey and with all the collective aspirations of women worldwide. So let me first express my gratitude to the event organizers for the invitation and for choosing such an important and pertinent topic that lies at the intersection with progress, inclusion, equity, and sustainability. So, honorable audience, in the ever-evolving landscape of global urbanization, our cities become the beating hearts of our societies, driving economic growth, fostering cultural exchange, and shaping our future. So as we face the challenges of urban and the urbanization and the rapid urbanization, it is really crucial to acknowledge that the future of our cities will be shaped by the collective voices of all community members, of course, leaving no one behind, particularly women. So the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2024 reminded us that achieving gender equality and parity in management roles will take many years if we maintain the same pace. So this stark reality calls for an immediate action and urgent action. So this compels us to challenge the outdated norms and structures that have historically marginalized women, and to foster an inclusive political culture that empowers all individuals, regardless of their gender. We all know that effective leadership in our cities is not merely about filling in positions. It is about the diverse perspectives and experiences that drive innovative change, innovative challenges to address challenges ahead. In fact, women leaders bring unique insights to urban governance, enhancing decision-making processes and contributing to the creation of safer, more accessible and sustainable communities. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, women's leadership in Morocco has been significantly advanced, largely due to the support of His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, may God assist him. Morocco has implemented major reforms to promote gender equality and equity and strengthening women's participation in decision-making positions and spheres. So our sovereign has consistently championed the cause of women, emphasizing the importance of including women in the country's economic and social developments. And as mayors, our role is crucial. We are at the front line of addressing pressing urgent challenges such as congestion, pollution, housing shortages, and unequal access to resources. So we need to implement solutions that reflect the needs of all our citizens, as I said, regardless of their gender. We have to advocate for gender-sensitive policies that address issues such as gender-based violence, access to education and healthcare, and sustainable urban planning. So today's event provides us with a platform for sharing experiences, challenges, insights, and of course, solutions. Moving forward, we have to commit to actionable steps by working together to dismantle biased social norms and structures, those that inhibit women's participation in public life, fostering education and awareness-raising initiatives, and of course, encouraging women to take on leadership roles. We need to advocate for implementing policies that really promote gender equality, to repeal the discriminatory laws, and of course to enhance support for women in leadership all over the world. Furthermore, it is really vital that we increase investments in gender equality at national, regional, local, and global levels. This includes funding for programs that empower women and support their leadership. So I'm calling you today to participate in creating more opportunities for dialogue, collaboration among all women leaders. Because together we can nurture a culture that embraces diversity and promotes inclusive decision-making where every voice is valued and innovative ideas thrive. We can inspire the next generation of women leaders, ensuring that they have the same opportunities. And of course, we can build a world where gender equality is not just an aspiration, but a reality. I would like to thank you all for your dedication and commitment towards women empowerment and gender equality. And of course, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've heard, I think, already on several occasions about the importance of networking, about the importance of having this community and mutual support. So I'd like to turn now to one of the leaders, women leaders, who have been with the Forum of Mayors already for some time as well, and maybe can tell us also based on the experience what is feasible, what has been done, and what we can do more. And Susan, you are also now the vice chair, but I know that you have been with us for a longer time. So would you like now to join us and share not only Glasgow's experience, but a wider one?
Good afternoon, everyone. It really does my heart good to see this so busy, and it makes me think that the expectation was that not as many people would turn up for this event, and the fact that you're so crammed in shows how much passion and interest there is for this topic. My name is Susan Aiken. I'm the city leader of Glasgow in Scotland. In the UK. Glasgow is Scotland's biggest city and the fourth biggest city in the UK. Absolutely, as Tatiana said, I have been around the Forum of Mayors since it was a concept rather than a reality. It was good luck that we in Glasgow had some strong connections with UNEC through our housing movement, and that helped me to be here from the beginning. And I'm delighted to be a vice chair to Mayor the Mayor of Skopje, Mayor Arskova this year, and it is just brilliant to see her and to see a woman chair, but also this incredible lineup of women leaders. And I know that there are many more in the audience and who have been part of the sessions today. The cities need to meet like this. Cities need to get together and talk to each other and support each other. But particularly leaders who find themselves, for whatever reason, under particular pressures and particular stresses. And there are a whole number of reasons for that, why that might be the case. We know that in a lot of countries, cities sometimes are leading the way in advocating for progressive policies in the face of national governments which are not advocating for progressive policies, and city leaders are often very bravely taking a stand against states and national governments which don't support the values in the SDGs, for example. But we also live in a moment right now where misogyny is once again becoming normalised as part of political discourse. It has re-entered political discourse and is treated increasingly as something that's acceptable within political discourse in a way that I don't remember for quite a long time. We are in a moment of backlash against women's rights, against women's progress, and we see it manifesting in lots of different ways. But it means that women in leadership right now, and particularly women of colour in leadership, are in the front line. We are absolutely in the front line of what is increasingly becoming a war against women in the political sphere. And I'm using these strong terms deliberately because I think we have to understand that we are in a moment of crisis, and that if we don't find a way to collectively push back against not just the rhetoric, but the policies and actions that we're seeing carried out, which are designed to restrict and limit women's lives, to strip away their rights, to strip away sometimes even their very personhood. If we don't understand it as the moment of crisis that it is, then it's a war that we will lose. And we will enter potentially into an era where women are once again pushed to the margins of public life and be told that our job is to go away and populate the planet. And that's what our role, and that's all that we're expected to do. So I think that the opportunity for women to come together to talk from our own contexts, within our own cities and our own countries, which are enormously diverse and incredibly different, but we all have things in common. We are all facing very similar challenges and very similar pressures as women leaders. And I wanted to talk about that rather than perhaps talk again about some of the statistics, and we've already heard articulated very well, and I'm sure we'll hear articulated again from some of my fellow women mayors, the reasons why it's so important for women to be visible in leadership, to be supporting each other, but also for society, for governance and laws to be constituted in such a way that it doesn't just support, but actually mandates for and embeds equality, gender equality within our systems of government and within our societies. And we'll hear a lot more of that, I'm sure. But it felt for me that it was important to take this moment to really articulate why this is so important, and why I think when we had this conversation last year, the similar panel, which was really fantastic, it feels to me a year later that it is even more vital and it is even more urgent that we have these conversations about women's leadership. We can't assume, though, that women in leadership are always going to behave in a way that advances women. women's interests and women's rights and women's progress. In the United Kingdom, we've had 3 women prime ministers in the history of the United Kingdom. And that in itself is an achievement, don't get me wrong, for a woman to reach the highest elected office in any country still in the world is something to be celebrated and achieved. But none of those women advanced the rights or interests of their fellow women across the United Kingdom in any way, and in actual fact, in some cases, took them backwards. I would think of a current policy in the United Kingdom, for example, called the 2-child cap, where benefits have been removed from low-income families who have more than 2 children. Who does that damage? It pushes children and women into poverty. That has been sustained across the premiership, the prime ministership of a woman in the United Kingdom upheld that policy. So there's no guarantee that simply putting women in office is going to deliver for women, unless we have these structures and we have these opportunities to actually define what advancement and progress for women in society looks like, what genuine equality looks like. And that has to be equality of outcome. It's not just saying, well, you've got the same chance to stand for elected office as anyone else. Go ahead, on you go. We know that that's not true. We know that the barriers that are put in place, either deliberately or just because they exist within society for women to be democratically elected, are multiple times more than for the majority of men. So it has to be focused on equality of outcomes. Jolanda talked about gender mechanisms. I think that is incredibly important. In Scotland, we have had those, or some political parties, my own, the Scottish National Party, and also the Labour Party, have had gender balance mechanisms for some time. And we have in our Scottish Parliament, 46% of the representatives are women. So it does work. It does work. It is hard, and you get a backlash, but you have to do it. And equality doesn't mean in an unequal society where we're not starting from the same point to say that, oh, but you've all got the same chance. That isn't equality, and therefore you have to actually do something specific within our political systems to help women and people with disabilities and people of colour, gender and sexual minorities as well, to overcome the very real barriers that are put in the way of their progress. So I will leave it there just now, colleagues, but I want to finish up with one point. I've done this job. I've been the leader of my city for 7 years now. The time has gone very fast. In Glasgow, we have implemented a feminist urban planning policy. It's something that's very exciting. We think it's not unique. There are other cities doing something similar, but not that many. It's still quite rare, and it's an opportunity for us. Actually, we're not entirely sure what feminist urban planning actually is. It's a conversation that we have to have, and to define what a feminist city actually looks and feels like, what it's like to live in, what it's like to move around in. And that's work that we're doing just now. But I'm not going to do this job forever. That feminist urban planning policy can't just rely on me being the leader of the city. It needs to still be there when I move on, or when I'm voted out of office, or whatever happens. I will always bow to democracy. So it needs to be embedded within the systems of the city. It can't just be reliant on me being there to be its champion. If a man follows me in leadership, he needs to be bound to continue that feminist urban planning policy. And that's why I say We can't just be left to the women to shoulder this burden, to do it all ourselves. This needs to be part of a fight for all of us within society, everyone who believes in equality and in progressive values. And this is a moment that we all have to stand up for it and say loud and clear that equality and the fight against gender discrimination is something that has to be absolutely central to what we think of as good governance and democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, not only a few important messages. One that caught my attention is that don't rely on the fact that you have women in leadership position, that you'd have the gender agenda being advanced. Still, I have the impression by having a woman, a leader, be it in a city or in a minister or prime minister position, it serves as a good example and puts some pressure also on the others to deliver. Speaking about that, I would like to now offer the floor to another mayor, and this time is from Mayor of Perugia, Vittoria Ferdinandi from Italy. And we've heard, I think, a few discussions about the thing. Is it true that in Europe we have a backslide when it comes to gender and to advancing on women leadership at local level? Please.
Thank you. Hello to everybody. First of all, I will really like to thank to all the organization event, because for me it's really an honor be in an important event like this and in a precious place like the House of Honor that remember to all of us the importance of building alliance, of reflecting about the problem and sharing solution. And it's a big honor be here with all this amazing mayor, because think about the gender equality and think about the human rights and women's rights. It means think about the future of our democracy, first of all. And I would like to start from one reflection. Democracy is about fair representation. So for evaluate the health state of our democracy, we have to ask firstly if the women are equally represented in politics and decision making. The half of the global population are women, yet worldwide less than one quarter of today's representatives in parliaments are women. In Italy, for example, in 2020, the 85% of mayors were men and only 15% were women. Now things may have changed a bit in the last 4 years. There is still a long way to go to achieve equal representation in Umbar leadership. Fortunately, I am one of the example of this increase. I am the first woman mayor of my city. The underrepresentation of women in leadership positions can be attributed to several key factors. Firstly, societal norms and stereotypes often discourage women from follow leadership roles, perpetuating the belief that men are more comfort for position of power. We can't forget that the world where we live is a world made by men for men, finalized to maintain the power of men. The patriarchy culture and structure of our society is one of the stronger barriers for follow gender equality. This is the reason because our work has to start from an education and cultural revolution. Structural barriers such as a lack of access to institutional network can block women professional advancement. In the institution tables, as I can see in my journey as a major, often arrive just men profiles. Our world reflected a millennial years of power relationships dominated by men that created a glass roof hard to broke by women. And first of all, we have to recognize this glass roof. The domains of balancing work and family responsibility overly affect women, make it more difficult for them to take on a leadership roles, but making more difficult also in Italy to take work in general. In the workplace, gender still make a big difference. Women have fewer opportunities everywhere. It's necessary to bridge the gender pay gap, forgive back to women the work like a fundamental instrumental of emancipation. As women mayors, we know that promote gender equality is a priority for all, not just for women and girls. And urban budgeting and planning gender sensitive means that the needs of all the people in a community are taken into account, are shaping the design of places and spaces, reflecting the socio-cultural needs of girls and boys, women and men. A lack of diverse perspective can lead to policies that not fully address the needs of all community members. This can result in urban planning and resource allocation that overlooks issues particularly affecting women and marginalized groups, such as safety, mobility, healthcare, and childcare service. Moreover, the absence of female leaders can perpetuate a cycle of underrepresentation, as young women may lack role models to inspire them to follow similar roads. To overcome these challenges, I focus on building, like today, strong alliance with other women leaders, created a supportive network that emphasizes collaboration and shared goals. I also work for promote community engagement, ensuring that the voice of all members of the community are heard and evaluated in the decision-making process. As women leaders, we need to work for the transformation of our understanding of democracy, political culture, and structure. It's time for a true embracement of equality between women and men as a fundamental principle in which our democracy system is based. This could radically transform our city, our societies, and allow for real gender equal relation. I am a psychologist and I know the value and the importance of the ambient. I used to work with disability, with people with mental disorder, and I understand they teach me something, that disability doesn't exist. Exists ambient that can protect the disability or can follow this disability. And we know how urban planning has been traditional design by men for men. And we know how urban planning shapes our lives, the way we move, rest and work. We need the woman mayor, urban leaders in order to shape cities that do not reflect traditionally gender roles, that accompany a different division of labor based on gender equality. Cities and urban spaces where women do not feel safe in the street, school, buses, and working places are cities not free of violence and not free for women. To address this challenge, we have implemented several initiatives. We are conducting gender analysis in urban planning to follow the needs of all community members are considered. This included creating safer public spaces through better lighting and increasing surveillance in areas frequented by women. We are also working on improving public transportation options to make them more accessible and affordable. Based on my personal experience and leadership journey, I can attest to the transformative impact of a gender-sensitive leadership on urban issues. When leaders prioritize gender inclusivity, it fosters a more holistic approach to urban planning and design. For instance, engaging women in the decision-making process lead to more thoughtful consideration of their unique needs, resulting in policies that promote equity and inclusivity. Gender-balanced leadership improves decision-making, promote inclusive, and contribute to more effective urban management, resulting in safer, more accessible, and sustainable cities. We can do it. Thank you.
A very important topic that was tackled just now is the gender-responsive policies. And I think either gender-responsive transport policy, urban planning, housing, there are many areas that we can discuss. And here at UNICE, we are very well aware of the importance really to have gender-responsive, not only policies, but even standards. Because our team that works, for example, on transport and trade have discovered that many of the standards of the products that we are using on a daily basis, including the cars that apparently Norman Foster is not a fan of, were actually designed in mind for men and not for women. And we are now rethinking some of this. So we can discuss a lot about this, but probably we don't have enough time just now for that. But it's something that maybe we can come up with some recommendation, actionable discussions for how to encourage gender-responsive policy at the cities level or for mayors to put in practice. And I think we have heard just a few very good examples in this sense. I would encourage us to go, we still have some time, so I would encourage us to go to have this more global perspective to look at what is and how is it to be a mayor, a leader, also in Latin America. Our data says that Latin America is not doing exceptionally well, but not bad as well. I mean, there are 15% from my speech, I remember something like this, 15% of women being mayors. So now I'd like to invite the mayor of Pichincha from Ecuador, Paula, to come and share with us a few experiences.
Muchísimas gracias. Voy a agradecer la traducción. Por eso lo hacemos desde aquí, para estar más cómodas. Lo han señalado ya varias de las mujeres que expusieron esta mañana. Nuestras sociedades son sociedades violentas, sociedades excluyentes, en donde la vida de las mujeres es dura, independientemente de su oficio o de su profesión. Por lo tanto, para las mujeres que hacemos política, también esa vida es dura. Mi nombre es Paola Pavón, soy la primera mujer electa gobernadora de mi provincia, de la provincia Pichincha, y soy la primera mujer en presidir la asociación de todos los gobernadores del Ecuador. Somos 23 gobernadores y es la primera vez que una mujer es gobernadora.
Good morning to everyone, and I'm the first woman leading this group of 23 governors in Ecuador. And I would like to stress that still the relevant problem for women in politics is dealing with violence, with excluding policies, and all actions that do not help, at the very end, women to have a leading role in our society.
Quisiera contestar las tres preguntas de este foro con tres interrogantes. ¿Cómo llegar? ¿Cómo gobernar? ¿Y cómo quedarnos en política? Voy a empezar con el primero, ¿cómo llegar? Expresó ya la preocupación el embajador. Daniela hizo su intervención y también cerrando la primera conferencia sobre la preocupación de que cada vez somos menos mujeres en gobiernos subnacionales. Necesitamos seguir consiguiendo mecanismos de acción afirmativa en nuestros países, y esto pasa por las legislaciones. Yo quisiera compartir con ustedes una experiencia, la experiencia del Ecuador. En la última reforma electoral en el Ecuador, en el 2020, logramos que los partidos políticos, por obligación, inscriban el 30% de mujeres candidatas para los gobiernos subnacionales. Por lo general, nuestros países tienen paridad para los cargos legislativos, los parlamentos, los consejos municipales, pero en esta ocasión logramos un 30% por obligación, que las listas presenten candidatas mujeres a la alcaldía y a las gobernaciones. La ley establece que en el 2025 debemos mantener la paridad y ser el 50%. Es decir, que en el 2025 los partidos tienen la obligación de presentar la mitad de las listas a las alcaldías y a las gobernaciones lideradas por mujeres.
I would like to touch three different moments of the life of a politician, and how to start in politics is the first question I would like to answer. Less women are less and less, as we are all confirming, are joining leadership position in politics, which show the need of positive action and especially legislation. Giving the example of Ecuador, I would like to remind our electoral reform, which pushed basically to a 30%, compulsory 30% of female candidates to a political position, and the goal in 2025 of 50% women, compulsory women candidates for a political position. And apparently it works.
Los primeros en oponerse a la reforma fueron obviamente los partidos políticos. Por lo tanto, tenemos que seguir trabajando en cambiar las estructuras de los partidos políticos. Y en el cómo llegar, la alcaldesa de Lusaka mencionó el problema del financiamiento. El financiamiento sigue siendo una gran dificultad. Por lo tanto, reformas legales que apunten al financiamiento prioritario para mujeres y que aumente los mecanismos de cuota para la representación de las mujeres, sí cambia la democracia.
So the second question I would like to answer is how to go on, how to proceed in our progressive path. Financing is crucial in this domain. So priority funds for women is the key tool in this domain.
Voy a ser rápida y paso al siguiente punto, cómo gobernar. Y me quedaría con la motivación y la intervención de Susan. Necesitamos mujeres que cambien la vida de las mujeres. Si no, tenemos autoridades mujeres sensibles a las agendas sociales, de políticas públicas, con planificación, con presupuesto, porque sobre todo la política pública tiene que hacerse con recursos para mujeres, para niños, para jóvenes, para la comunidad LGBTI, no tendría impacto la presencia de esas mujeres que hacen política. Estas agendas son importantes porque llegan a los sectores que históricamente han sido rezagados.
¿Cómo gobernar? How to rule? I would like to remind what the mayor of Glasgow just reminded before, Susan. We need women that change women's life. So this is the point number one in our political agenda. Again, positive actions that has a real impact in women's life. Rules made by women for women.
Y por la experiencia en estos 5 años, en mi segundo periodo, lo que ha marcado la diferencia con administraciones anteriores han sido los programas de cuidados, atención para mujeres sin seguridad social, que puedan tener acceso a servicios de salud, servicios de combate a la violencia contra las mujeres y políticas de atención a los niños. Por eso estoy convencida que más allá de ser un componente fundamental para cambiar nuestras sociedades, también es rentable políticamente. Si colocamos la vida de la gente reconocerá que somos administraciones que priorizamos su vida.
What made the difference in Ecuador, for instance, was a series of laws implemented with reference to public health, laws against violence on women, all a series of actions which has a clear impact on people's life. And it is my profound opinion that when laws have an impact on people's life, people understand that and feel that.
Y finalmente, ¿cómo quedarnos en la política? Muchas veces las mujeres entramos en política y siendo una arena tan dura, preferimos retirarnos. Lo que necesitamos es que más mujeres ingresen a la política, pero tomen la decisión de quedarse. Y debemos tener la convicción de que nuestra presencia es necesaria para gobernar generando políticas de equidad. Daniela lo dijo en su intervención, las mujeres tenemos mejores condiciones, mejor inteligencia emocional y siento que las mujeres tenemos las condiciones de administrar de mejor manera las crisis. Estos son tiempos de guerra, son tiempos de violencias, son tiempos de migración, son tiempos de efectos nocivos por el cambio climático y las mujeres tenemos la posibilidad de generar redes, priorizar de mejor manera los pocos recursos para enfrentar la crisis y sobre todo debemos quedarnos porque tenemos que seguir abriendo caminos para las que vienen, para las futuras generaciones, para las próximas alcaldesas, para las próximas gobernadoras y para las próximas presidentas. Gracias.
So the last question, how to stay on how to leave politics, because there is a moment to leave too. So women should be able to make their own decision to stay or to leave politics. In this regard, equality policies are again a key factor. And among the many skills of women, I would like to remind that one of crisis management. We are living in a time of crisis, of various crises, climate change, migration, and many, many more. And women have a specific and peculiar skill in managing crisis. And so said, we then work for the next mayor, the next governor, the next president. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you for structuring it and replying to this question in a very clear way. And, some of them, I don't think it's very different for being a woman or man. The challenges, how to stay in power after a certain period. I think this is a challenge for everyone. I would like now to have our next and final speaker from this distinguished panel offering us a view from another region yet. And I would like to offer the floor to the mayor of Klang from Malaysia, and to really give us also some sharing with us from the personal experience, but also from the regional, maybe some of the interesting perspectives and what we can do better together. Thank you. Would you like to come?
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the organization, Economic Commission, Social and Economic Commission of East Asia Pacific, UCLG, for bringing me here all the way, more than 15 hours flight from Malaysia. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that we all share the same objectives, that we need to empower women to enhance our participation in the decision making at the global level, and what women can do better at the localizations of SDGs. So having said that, allow me to share my experience. I am the first woman mayor for my region, which covers more than 12 major cities. And I would say in Malaysia, I'm only the third. That happens in 2011. My experience is very different. I'm not politically elected. I am appointed by the politically elected regional government. Therefore, I would say this, if it is up to merit, I think more women leaders will be appointed. Because in my city, I have 75% head of departments who are women. Mm-hmm. But for political appointment, I only have less than 20% women leaders. So that says a lot about what political scenarios in Malaysia, and I believe it is the same as in all of Asia. So we are still lagging behind. Indonesia have made it compulsory for 30% of electoral representatives to be women, but not in Malaysia yet. So we have to push forward, and I welcome the support from the European communities and the global communities to push Malaysia to have compulsory quota for women leaders. When I was first appointed in 2011, I asked myself, how could I be better than the men mayors? What difference would I bring as being the first woman mayors? And not knowing what else to do, because I have been a local government officer for the past 20 years before. I was a town planner, so physical development and social and environmental development has always been within my job scope. But being a mayor is a totally different game. If we don't have to play the political whatever they need to do in political things, I can truly focus on what the society needs. And having led 4 different cities of different needs, we have to come down running and implementing as soon as possible what we have studied between the gap of the vision that the country have, that the region have, and what the city should be, and what is actually happening. Being a professional, I always rely on numbers, and I always study the gap between what is supposed to be and comparing to other cities at the global level to what we have, and with matching that with the resources that we have, because priorities are different in all of the 4 cities that I have led. So having scientific data help, having people who are analytical and pointing me to the right numbers so that I can make the right decision helps a lot. And monitoring what we have done before, and I would say this about voluntary local review, it's not about satisfying what United Nations asks you to do, but what you yourself wanted to achieve in your cities. Each cities will have a different focus on all the 17 SDGs, but do know where you lack and do know where your strength is. So doing VLR has been helpful for my 2 cities that I have done so, and I will encourage other cities to do so. Again, being a technical person, knowing where you are, where you're going, and measuring that gap helps. Next come the financial abilities of our cities. We depend on national government for all the major projects. We need to have good relationship with the national government. We have talked about multilateralism a lot in this forum, but have they listened to us or not? I mean, in my country, the portion that was given to the local government has been the same since I started working in the, well, I'm so old that I started work in 1989, and I'll be retiring this year. But if we are given the same amount of money to cover for a lot larger population, how can we survive? But for your information, my city, Klang, housed the biggest port in Malaysia. So I know the role that I have to play to promote the economy for the whole country, if not only my city, because housing the biggest port, meaning that you have the most industries there. And if the economy lacks in my city, it will have impacts, not only to other cities within the country, but also to some of the neighboring countries who depends on job opportunity in my city, because we have that. So having the right policy, talking to the business people, having the strategies to facilitating businesses, the growth of industries, that is important. And at the same time, looking at the social level of it, housing for workers, having migrants coming to your cities, those are the things that we need to look at. And being women, having been in the house, in the kitchen more, you develop a policy that is more friendly in the design of the housing areas, in the design of the houses themselves. We need bigger kitchen, we need bigger toilets for women, we need bigger numbers of toilets, because women have to go a bit longer in the restroom. So those are the kind of things that I guess women mayors can bring to the people. But listening to the people, having gender responsive budgeting based on what the town hall meetings, based on the groups of representatives from the communities, helps me a lot. But I would say this, even having a town hall meeting doesn't necessarily mean that we get to hear women's voices, because most of the neighborhood and community leaders are also men. So we need to have a special table, a special forum for women to be heard. And what they are saying to me is that the care economy, who's taking care of their children if they have to go to work, and how do they start a business without leaving their home? Those are the kinds of things that often were left behind when you think of the big policy. And from my experience of going through escalating from 2 projects in low-income housing to 20-something, 28 projects within a period of 1.5 years, oftentimes at the low-income communities, when there's no money for managing the housing areas, women are the one who come up to the forefront, because, well, they need to take care of the house, they need to take care of the children staying in the house. So when the environment is not clean, when the environment is not safe, they are the one who have to think about how to make the environment safer. So I do believe working with the community-based organization and getting a sharp vision and a clear objective of what you want to do will call upon a lot of NGOs to come and help us. So I believe that women leaders play a big role, and we need to be heard not only at the national level, but also at the global level. And I believe that all our sisters here will remain strong and pursue your ambition and your vision towards a fairer world for everybody. Thank you.
So, thank you so much. Before I give the floor for the concluding remarks to our wonderful partners and supporters in organizing this event from Italy, the last comment that you have made is one that I would like to share with everyone listening after this panel speeches. You can have regions or countries that have a very supportive agenda, on the paper at least, let's say. And still, it's not for granted that you would have an adequate empowerment of women, local leaders, or in general leaders. So it's not, don't take it for granted that the country has a quota or has some measures of that speaks about gender equality, that you would have more mayors in place. And the vice versa, the fact that you have a country where you have so few enabling factors from the political, from the central government to have women or a gender balance when it comes to leadership position doesn't mean that we do not have. We have great examples here with us that are the first. Many of the members of the panel have been the first in their cities, communities, regions, and even for the country, in many cases. So it's about putting also the pressure beyond the country level, the international, what we can do in order to set these practices, examples, best standards, or I would dream to have something like which is legally binding, even not only as recommended when it comes to enforcing some of the best practices for gender equality, a true gender equality. And another very important, which was, I started with this by the story that I shared with you, but basically each one of you also mentioned that the importance of networking and mutual support and having this engagement and best practices being shared with us. So with this too, I would like to once again thank you all for contributing to this discussion, and I would like now to invite, I think it's Laura who would be delivering some concluding remarks.
So good afternoon all. I'm very happy to see my phone, and I'm very happy to see my many male faces among us, and many thanks for coming, and many thanks to our beautiful mayor for leading by example. You're the real hero, hearing your stories and your narrative. It is an honor for me to be here again for the Forum of Mayors. I was in 2020. I witnessed the first edition together with Paola, and I like to remember that the mayor of Milano, Giuseppe Sala, was the keynote speaker of that edition. This morning, we have heard various eminent speakers talking about the relevance of cities and the mayors as key stakeholders in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The Summit of the Future, which was recently held in New York, has been strictly interlinked with the cities, the concept of cities of the future. This is for a series of reasons: the percentage of people, living in the cities, the role of cities in curbing the CO2 emission. So the urban dimension of our future is practically undeniable. In 2023, we, together with Ambassador Grassi and the great Paola again, we had this idea to add a gender perspective to this event. And because we deem important to listen to the voices of women mayors and from various parts of the globe. So like today, we heard experiences of, I would like to remember them all, from Skopje, Lusaka, Rabat, Glasgow, Ecuador, and Perugia, the mayor of Perugia. Different stories, different perspectives, but a common concern, and I would say a common approach. I would like to remember a quote by Virginia Woolf from her novel Trigenius. Though we see the same world, we see it through different eyes. That's what our measures basically depicted for us today. So we heard of various kind of still worrying problems like gender bias, the need for safe spaces, violence in speech, misogyny as normalized in the political dialogue. These words really made me shiver because it seems really to take a step backward in history. But at the same time, we consider the pros of the situation, like positive actions, and mostly there were many references to financing women policy and legislation in favor of women. So finally, my conclusion will not be sober because the statistics that we have heard this morning at the plenary and here again by the executive secretary and by some of our majors are quite worrying, especially referring to the SDG number 11 that we see here. According to the SDG report 2024, participation in public life remains elusive for women. So in a nutshell, we are still not where we need to be. Women are still not in the place they need to be. And finalizing with all these beautiful concepts with some words by Madeleine Albright, I'm grateful to the dear person who reminded me this quote: "There is a special place in hell for women who do not support women." Because as we all said, the key tool is networking and help each other. Thank you all for coming.